So that's me inside his room, so we share the room, and that's my cot. So this is where he would take care of me when I was a baby. And because we're born on the same date, but 9 years apart, that's why we were put together.
So can you start by just introducing yourself, so your name and who your brother is?
Okay, so my name is Mila. I am Syed Suhail's sister. I'm the youngest of the 3 siblings. Yeah.
So if we start with Syed's life, right? So what do you remember of him when you were kids, and what was he like?
To be honest, because he's my older brother, so he always came off as very fierce, very fierce, and he would always scold me. But he was the one who always protects us. Yeah, my older sister and Mila. So he was. I shared a room with him when I was a baby. Then we moved around a lot as kids. Our mother got cancer when I was in kindergarten, so that means Syed was about 14. So I think learning that my mom had cancer and it was already stage 4, so that kind of triggered all of us. Well, maybe not so much me, but my brother and sister. So I saw them change drastically. My brother started going out, not coming home. My sister also was spending more time out instead of staying home. And then towards the end, nearer to my mom's final months, my brother got caught. I don't really know what he did, but he was sent to RTC. So when my brother was in RTC, that's where my mother passed away. And in fact, my dad went to RTC to pick him up, but he refused to come out. He said he doesn't want to go for the funeral. So he just kind of shut himself off. And then I think that's where it started, where he couldn't cope with it. And it's kind of in our genes. My mom I think she had undiagnosed bipolar, and my brother also has he went through an episode of a breakdown where he was admitted to IMH, and I have like depression and anxiety, so we kind of all have some issue, so I think my brother's way of coping with it was through drugs. Yeah, so that's how it all started, from actually smoking weed, and then when that doesn't work, then he goes to stronger stuff. Yeah. When he started taking other stuff, even his group of friends changed also. So he sort of drifted away from that group. I think also when he went into RTC, so that's where he met other kids who were doing the harder stuff. And then they met up outside, and then they continued from there. Yeah.
Did he ever tell you what DRC was like?
Yeah, I mean, he said the first initial part where they go through the withdrawal, there's not much support there. And they kind of like, I wouldn't say torture lah, but I mean, they would hose him down, with like really cold water, and put him in a really cold room. He'd be shaking and shivering, but that's how they kind of detox him. In terms of like actual rehab, actual like guidance and all that, it's not much. He said actually it's just, they just go in, they meet their friends, or a new bunch of people, they hang out for a while, and then they will get offered tagging if they have good performance, but I mean that's also quite rare. And then it doesn't really help them in any way lah. I mean, the addiction is still there because they don't really like what's this? address the addiction. They just treat them as criminals. So you just go in, lock up, and then hopefully you detox yourself, you go out and you don't do it again. But you're mixing with the same group of people, so you go out and you still meet them again. It starts all over again. So that's the problem, because they don't deal with the addiction itself. Yeah.
Were you ever aware if he tried, apart from DRC, if he tried any other ways to kick the habit?
He does want to pick himself up. He looks for jobs. He's not. He's a very bright guy. He reads poetry. He reads philosophy. He can quote paragraphs of the books that he reads, and he will read something and he will explain it to me, and I'll be like, oh my god, I don't know what you're talking about, but he gets it. So it's not like he's uneducated or anything. He knows a lot of things. He even worked for at one point he worked for financial planner, and he actually wrote a 2-page article for the magazine. But because of his background, people find out that he's got a drug habit and that he's been to DRC, then they look at him differently. Then he starts feeling that people are judging me, and then he loses his self-esteem. So that's where he will fall back into it again. But then when we notice that, we sort of have to tell him, don't just listen to some people, it's not just that. You know yourself, we know you, so work for that. Then he will pick himself up again and he will get a job and all that. But the thing is, once people find out what's his background and what happened to him, then things change. So it's very hard for him to continue and get that momentum again. But he never really shares his reason for taking drugs. He was a joker, so he would go in the room, lock himself out, and do whatever it is he's doing. He will come out and start doing goofy dances, making jokes and making us laugh. But we really didn't realize how much he was suffering inside. But I noticed that whenever we talk about my mom, my late mom, right, that's where he totally shuts down. And he doesn't really talk much. Same goes for my sister lah. So I guess it's losing my mom that really affected him the most. And also that's what sort of started it. And then he kind of stopped for a while. But then my siblings, we have the same mom but different dad. So his father is in Malaysia, and then when his father passed away, and he couldn't go to Malaysia at that point of time, so then that's where he went into this whole thing again, because he just couldn't cope with it, I guess. Yeah.
What do you think would have helped him better?
To be honest, I asked him this question, and after RTC, he actually signed up for NS, but he was rejected because he was from RTC, so he didn't get to go into NS. And he said that was the biggest mistake. If he had actually gone to NS, he would have actually come out a different person, because NS is all about discipline, and you mix with different people. And he actually said that if he had only been given the chance to go to NS, his life now would definitely be much, much different. Because once you have a record that you don't get to go to NS, people already know what's going on.
Did he get much care? So he got sent to IMH at one time.
Yeah.
Otherwise, did he get much care for?
In IMH, it was quite scary actually when I went to see him. My sister went to see him first, and she said she couldn't take it because he was strapped to the bed and he was screaming and shouting. They had to inject him to get him to calm down. When I saw him next, he wasn't really himself, and I feel like IMH is more like a prison than an actual institute to help people with this kind of cases. He was having a lot of paranoia, and he was just, I don't know what happened to him. It was quite a scary thing. Even when he was discharged, he would pace up and down in the house, and I'll just look at him going up and down from the kitchen to the hall, to the kitchen to the hall, and suddenly he will just say, I need to go for a walk. And he can walk for hours. They had a house, they rented a house in Tampines at that time. So from Tampines, he would walk all the way to like East Coast, and then he would come back in the morning, and we're like, where did you go? I said, I don't know, man. I just ended up at the beach. And then we're like, are you okay? And say, yeah. But we don't really know because, he doesn't really share much. But I guess he was going through some stuff, He has this, he doesn't know how to say it, but he says like flashbacks. And then it would trigger something off in him. But I don't know why he has it. So I think that's what, the medication that IMH was giving him, I guess, wasn't doing what it was supposed to do, and he didn't know how else to treat that thing he was going through. Yeah. In 2018, it happened again while in prison. Something happened and it triggered it, but I don't know what happened. He didn't really tell me much about that. Yeah.
Did they have to send him to IMH again?
No, they didn't, but I think they didn't know what was happening, and so he acted out, and so they assumed that he was just acting out, but it's actually I think he couldn't control what was going on. He was getting a lot of flashbacks about what happened to him in RTC. They would beat you up, trying, I don't know why, getting information or trying to teach them a lesson, but these are kids, RTC is for teenagers. So he had those flashbacks, and then when the prison officers come in front of him, he couldn't take it, and just because of that, instead of finding out and really checking does he have any records in IMH, they just put him in isolation. So when he's in isolation, you're in a cell with no openings, there's a small tiny hole. It triggered him more. So he wasn't getting better, and they just kept him in isolation thinking that he was just acting out, but actually that wasn't the case. If they had actually checked, and when they were during the case, I guess I think he did mention this thing, but I don't think they believed him, But I mean, he has a record in IMH, It's not like something made up. So I don't know why they didn't get a doctor to come in and check and see if he's having an episode or know what's wrong with him, why is he acting this way. Instead of doing that, they just punished him and put him in isolation. Yeah.
So can you tell us about how your family found out about Syed's offence?
Syed was staying with his then girlfriend. So it was fasting month, I remember. And his girlfriend called me in the middle of the night. So when I saw the girlfriend's call, I said, oh my god, okay, something must have happened. So she told me what happened. And I think I just waited for a call from the IO to come down to the Cantonment branch to see him. When I went to see him, the officers were in the same room as him, so he was just telling me what is going to happen and what would be the ultimate sentence that he would get. Yeah, that was about it. They didn't really say much to me. It was more my brother just telling us what happened.
Did he tell you then that the maximum sentence?
Yeah, he told us that the maximum would be the death penalty. And then all three of us started crying. Yeah.
And what was it like, with lawyers and everything, having to follow that case?
My brother actually said that the state would take care of it, so we didn't really approach. I mean, I did approach one or two lawyers, but we couldn't afford them, so I had to ask them if they would be able to take it pro bono. But most of the time the answer was they already had their quota for the year for pro bono cases, so they couldn't take his case. So we just left it to the state now. But I feel like the lawyers under LESCO that actually were doing his case could have done a lot better than what they did. Yeah. But my brother is the kind that doesn't want us to go to court because he doesn't want us to see what's happening, and I think he doesn't want to see us as well, because then that's where he will just break down. So even when I tell him that, no, tell me the dates and I'll go and I'll be there for you, he doesn't let me know. The lawyers also don't really update me until I reach out to them and say, hey, what's happening to the case? How come I don't hear anything? Yeah.
And so when did you hear that he had already been sentenced to death?
I think we received a letter. I can't really recall. Either it was a letter or the lawyer called me. All I remember was I just put on the phone and I didn't know what to do. Yeah. But I think it was either a letter or a call, but I think it was a letter. Yeah. Just saying that his sentence has passed and that's what's going to happen. Yeah.
And so what does he tell you about the prison conditions now?
Now, I think because he's at this state of mind where he's quite calm, so everything sort of, it's okay, I guess, compared to when maybe 6 months ago, where he just got very frustrated with everything. Before the sentence was dropped, right? He was in another area, so he had a lot of his books and his music and whatever nots that he had. So when they moved him to the other area where all the inmates that have been sentenced, so they're in a different unit, right? He actually requested for all his books that were in the previous cell, and they didn't give it to him, and they were mocking him about it and were like, "You don't have your books? Like, what are we talking about? What books?" So that kind of started the whole thing again. So yeah, I don't know what's going on inside lah, but every time I see him, there's always something that they're not doing right, or there was one point of time where he got so mad at me for not coming to see him, and I said, "They told me you don't know, you were blocking all visits for the time being." I said, "No, I told them to call you. Did you change your number?" I've had my number for 10 years. I'm not changing the number. I said, "But they tried to call you and they said they couldn't reach you." I said, "No, nobody called me." And there were times where he asked for medication and they wouldn't give it to him. Even today also, to now also, when he asks for something like medication or what, it's so difficult to get for him. I have to sort of reach out to the officers there and tell them, "Hey, what are you guys doing?" I don't know why they don't just why do they always treat the prisoners so, how do I say it, like they're not humans. You're already sentencing these people to death. Can't you just treat them well? I know they're prisoners and you're supposed to be like, all harsh and, fierce with them, but there are certain things that you should allow, right? Yeah.
So can you tell us about your experience with the prison? What is it like dealing with them?
When I send in stuff for requests like of visitors and I understand that they have SOPs to follow. So when we want to register a family member, we have to show proof of relationship. But how do I show a proof of relationship between my aunt and my brother? Like I have to show my aunt's birth cert, my mother's birth cert, my brother's birth cert. Where do I get my mom's birth cert? And then or like even uncles, from my uncle in Malaysia, they had to actually get they had to go to the office to get an official letter stating that he is indeed related to my brother. So I think certain things, like they ask, that you can't, they know you can't get it. Why are you making it so difficult? We just want to visit them and see them. Even my sister who lost her birth cert, they asked to prove the evidence show proof that they're related. And I'm like, look at the name. Literally in Malay, like, binti blah blah blah, bin blah blah blah, same what? So, that was the frustrating thing for me lah, because I have to arrange all the visits and then I have to tell my relatives, "I'm sorry, you can't come because you don't have the proof." And like I said, that certain things my brother asked for, like medication and all that, I will ask them to give once, and then the next time I come and see him and say, "Did you get it?" say, yeah. And then after a while, when he wants it again, then he says, can you go and ask? Because I asked and they don't want to give it to me again. And my brother is like, he has a frozen shoulder, I think. Yeah, so he needed some medication and they didn't want to give it to him. And certain books that he asked for, they outright just reject. I mean, there are certain things that, yeah, I understand lah, if you don't let me bring rendang for him, you know. But books, don't be so... You know, this guy loves to read and you're already locking him up inside a cell. Let him read lah. Yeah.
What about that day when he got that last minute stay of execution?
Oh my god, yeah. That was a nightmare. I didn't know whether I should be celebrating or should I still be, you know, doing what I'm supposed to do, because the prisons didn't let me know anything. The care officers were not telling me anything. And before I left the prison, the care officers would said that they would contact me, you know, even if whether it's going on or it's not, by 9 o'clock they should have texted me. But I wasn't going to wait until 9 o'clock because, you know, how can I wait so long? And we already heard from the lawyers that there is a stay of execution. So that's why I called the lawyer again and said, hey, the care officer doesn't know anything, and said the prison didn't tell her anything, so what's going on? So like maybe about 1 hour, 2 hours later, then only the prison told me that, yeah, there is a stay of execution. So I asked them, are you going to give me a letter? Oh, let me check. I'll let you know tomorrow. So I'm like, okay.
What changes do you think need to be made to prisons in Singapore?
Okay, let's just say drugs lah, because that's the most talked about offence in Singapore. They need to address that it's an addiction. They can't just criminalize them and put them in prison. They need to help these people. And hanging them is not going to help anybody. Putting them away for 7 years is not going to help anybody, because there are people who go in for 7 years straight and they come out and they do the same thing again. Why? Because they have nothing else to do. They literally can't really find anything else because no one's going to take them in. So I think that's one thing that they need to realize, that maybe they do have programs for drug offense people, you know, like the rehab programs, but if it keeps failing, then there's something wrong with the programs that they're doing. And so they need to really review it and work on it. Prisoners, they're there to pay for their offences, sort of, right? So they're supposed to go in there to sort of repent. So treat them like people who are repenting, you know, don't keep punishing them and aggravating them to, you know, see how far they will go and then just punish them, you know. It's like, some of them, they actually do like say that they instigate you, you know, to see how far you can go. And then when they hit the limit, right, and then they get punished, and then what is the purpose of that? You know, you're supposed to help them change, you know, become better people, and then help them come back into the society, get jobs, you know, lead a better life, and not go back to what it was. So I think they need to focus on that, instead of just, you know, thinking that, oh, you made a mistake, this is your punishment, so you sit and rot there. They shouldn't do that. They should help these people. I think they can do that actually if they look into the system and the programs.
But even today, right, the government is saying that the death penalty is a deterrence.
Yeah, but it's not. I mean, like the death penalty has been around for how many years? So many years. And we still have people bringing in drugs. I mean, people know that if you traffic drug, you hang. If you get caught with this much amount of drugs, this is what's going to happen. If you are caught and they test you and your urine is positive for drugs, you go to prison. But there's a reason why people actually go into this. Some of them are really just so desperate, they don't know what to do, they need money fast, they need to maybe pay off some stuff, and then somebody comes up to them and say, you know, look, you bring in this much drugs and then we'll pay you this much, and then you know, that's it. So they think, okay lah, you know, you have this death penalty for years and the drug problem is still here, so how is it a deterrent? It's not, because people know what's going to happen if they do get caught, but sometimes they just don't have a choice. Even though everybody says people do have a choice, but you're not in their shoes, you know. They have to be really, really desperate to do something like this.
Do you think there's like a connection between poverty, race, and drug use or drug?
Definitely. I mean, my brother was telling me the other day how, because of the color of his skin and his appearance, he is automatically classified as a Malay gangster, but he's actually not. And then, like, just by looking at him, because my brother shaves his head, and he's got tattoos and all that, so just looking at him, they automatically will look down on him. And when people look down on you, it's not easy to get jobs. So when you can't get jobs, then that's where they look for alternative means of getting money. And these are the easier things for them to do, where I mean, they're all the same kind of people in the same group. So they say, never mind lah, here this is how you can get some money lah if it's too hard for you to do other jobs. So they go there. I mean, some people will look at it as like, oh, it's the easy way out. You should have tried harder. I mean, there are jobs that you can do and all that. But to be honest, there aren't. And you get jobs with the same group of people, and there will be one or two of them who will definitely be in this group. And then that's where, it goes on and on and on and on and on and on and on. So it's very hard, especially when you're like a Malay or Indian lah, okay? Just, yeah, it's really hard.
What was your reaction when you heard that, your brother's letters had been handed over to the Attorney General's chambers?
Of course you were frustrated. I mean, how can they do that knowing that they have proper procedures? How did this manage to fall through the cracks and reach the AGC? I mean, that's impossible. So I think something should be done.
And how did it feel in court the other day?
Oh my god. It was intense. It was frustrating. The prosecutor was saying that, oh, he didn't open the letters. He saw the icons but didn't open the letter. And they believed him. We were just amazed at how easily he just got away with it. Like, oh yeah, I saw it but I didn't open it. Like, okay. And they believed him for his word. Then why is it so hard for them to listen to Syed and the lawyer who's fighting for him? Why is it so easy to just go for the prosecutor and say, okay, you didn't really, okay, fine. Like, where's the evidence? They keep asking for evidence and proof from my brother's side, but how come they don't? How do you prove that he didn't read the letter? You can't. What?
You mentioned that a lot of Singaporeans don't see or understand like a different side to Singapore. What do you wish people understood more? What do you wish they would see?
I think they should open their eyes and realize that Singapore is not as pretty as it seems, not as beautiful, not as innocent. There are like ghettos in Singapore. What you see on TV and what you read in the newspaper is what they want you to see. Learn to actually find out more about what's going on in your country.
But so the government might use that to say that that's why we have the death penalty, to like clean all these things up.
Yeah, no. I mean, why do you want to kill your citizens? Shouldn't you be helping them? They do this for a reason, because it's hard to get by in Singapore for them. So they unfortunately fall into this trap and this circle that's the only way they can survive. And I mean, look at it, it's the minorities that are in it. Where are the other races, on death row now, there's like 50 over people. Out of the 50 over people, 5 of them are Chinese. And they're not even Singaporeans. So where are the Singaporean Chinese? You mean all Singaporean Chinese are so innocent that they don't do anything wrong? So the minorities get the bad name, and then they get the bad rap, and then they just get the death penalty. You know, you have to give. It has to be fair for everyone. And you see that this group of people is the same race. Help that race. Why is there no help for them? Like they will argue and say, yes, we are helping, but it's not enough.
There are a lot of Singaporeans who are very pro-death penalty. What would you like to say to them?
I think they need to understand, firstly, the situation. They need to understand that killing someone isn't gonna help in any way. If somebody asked me, if somebody killed your family member, wouldn't you want to kill that person? Why? How is killing a person going to bring back the person that's already dead? Or how is this revenge going to work? So I think a lot of people are going for like, yes, they deserve to die because they did this. But if they die, what changes? Nothing. Somebody else is going to do the same thing, and then that person dies again. And then somebody else does the same thing, and nothing changes. So there's no point of this death penalty.
Are there any alternatives that you think we should consider?
Life imprisonment is one option that they should actually look into rather than the death penalty. Because then the person can go in and then you start on the reformative programs. Identifying the reason why people do certain things and working on how to help that person, that should be done. During that life sentence, then you will be able to see a person change and give that person another chance to, come out better, repay for whatever sins that they've done. And who knows, life sentence, maybe 20 years down the road, you see that person has really, really, really changed. And then you give that person another chance to go out and sort of pay back the community. Because a lot of people are saying that, you get rid of these people because they are wasting the taxpayers' money and, they're a menace to the community. But if they actually repent and given a second chance, and then they come back and they contribute to the community, isn't it better?
So when you went to visit your brother, did he have a message that he wanted to pass to everyone?
Okay. Everyone inside, he says, is fighting for their life right now. Everyone should be given a second chance. Everybody makes mistakes. They're all human. So instead of just trying to quickly end their life, they should be given a chance to prove to the people that, they are actually good people. They should be given some form of mercy so that they can change themselves. Yeah, that's what they want. They want mercy.
So if Syed did get mercy, do you know how he would like to spend his life if he did get clemency?
We as a family, we love education. So I'm very sure that he will go on studying, Like I said, he loves philosophy. So I'm sure he will go on to learn more about philosophy, see how he can contribute to the community. He's all about charity. He has always donated whatever he can. He's a good person, so he definitely will give back to society since they're giving him a second chance. He won't take it for granted. Yeah.
And the last question, what do you think people can do now to help?
Definitely spread the awareness that the death penalty does not work. That addiction is a problem not just in alcohol or gambling, but drugs. It's not so much. It shouldn't be criminalized, and that just spread the awareness, Yeah, I think learning more about the drug addiction educating themselves, and then realizing that with help, these people can actually get better. Ultimately, we want to abolish the death penalty. So that is really important. So spread awareness, share on your social media, talk about it more. Don't be so scared to speak up, you know. That would be great. Yeah, this one we were in the train in Malaysia. So my sister and my brother, yeah, my dad likes to bring us on adventures. So this was one of the adventures that we had. I remember my dad was saying the train was so packed that we had to go out through the windows. Yeah. No, do you have his picture with his toys? Okay. This is in Malaysia also. That was his fashion sense at that time. I always found it weird. I think it was like kind of like skater kind of thing, right? Because he was into skateboarding and so. There's another album, but I don't think I have it with me now. That shows his toys. So he was a Star Wars fan. He had all the Star Wars figurines. But I don't think I have it now. Yeah.